everyone. Welcome to our part 2 of the lecture series of Philosophy of Mind, the sub-theme being Problem of the Mental Content. I am Dr. Ananya Barua, teaching in the Department of Philosophy, Hindu College, University of Delhi. We had been discussing about the various mental states, and we have arrived that mental states are either strong intentional mental states, which are propositional in nature, strong phenomenal mental states, which are non-propositional and non-directional in nature, weak intentional mental states, which are both intentional and phenomenal in nature, and weak anti-intentional mental states, which are neither intentional nor phenomenal. Having understood these four states of the mind or mental states, we then address the very genesis of our question, which was, what is the problem of mental states and what is the way out to bridge this problem? Having understood the four states of mind, we propose that one of the ways to bridge the problem of the mental content is the happy negotiation between strong intentional mental states and strong phenomenal mental states. Yes, weak intentionalism is the bridge that connects the two disconnected extremes. Today, we will be understanding a little bit more of the weak intentional mental states. With weak intentional mental states, we understand that there is a strong play of the role of strong intentional mental states and strong phenomenal mental states in their own way. That is, intentional mental states cannot be exclusive of the phenomenal mental states, neither can phenomenal mental states be only celebrating as the be-all and end-all. Both need to handshake. Intentional mental states, which we had stated, are those mental states which are propositional, they are directional, they have a public setting, and are thus public. However, the non-intentional or phenomenal mental states are those mental states which are subjective, which are private, which are ineffable, and thus non-propositional. And in context of our phenomenal mental states, we had already discussed about qualia. Let me today further elaborate on the concept of the phenomenal mental states. For example, if a mother worries about the safe arrival of her child, can we address the worry of the mother as right or wrong? Or better still, can we address, say, the love, which is an emotion of a mother towards her children, as right or wrong? No. Emotions do not necessarily belong to the domain of propositional or right and wrong. Thus, mental states become propositional in nature, they are intentional. However, when they are non-propositional, like the examples of the mother's love or the mother's worry, the emotions, they are phenomenal mental states. Phenomenal mental states have been celebrated by a lot of other philosophers, just like there are philosophers like Tim Crane who celebrates strong intentional states, philosophers like Frank Jackson, Thomas Nagel celebrates strong phenomenal mental states. I will be taking up two articles here to elaborate on our strong phenomenal mental states. To begin with, let me take the example of Frank Jackson, where he had written an article, What Mary Did Not Know. That is the title of his article. Now, the very question, what Mary did not know, is a philosophically loaded title. First, who is Mary here? Mary happens to be an acclaimed, celebrated scientist who has mastered all that is to master to be a successful physician. She knows anything and everything about the processes, the methodologies, the system, the proceedings of the neurons, the nerve, the mental inner world. She knows about everything, how the physics respond. She knows how or what a physician vis-a-vis a surgeon is supposed to know. She is acclaimed, she is celebrated. However, with Mary, she was brought up in a black and white room. That was her way of learning. Let us go back to our COVID times. We were all in a room covered, or should I say shielded and sheltered, or maybe imprisoned from the outside world with our own gadgets and online classes. So somewhat like that, Mary was brought up in an online or disembodied setup of learning and training process. All that she had been brought up was through the gadgets in a black and white room. As the article proceeds, Mary, being an acclaimed scientist, knows or knew everything that was to know about the chemical properties, about the other physical properties, about everything which are physical objects. She knows how vegetables are made or happens, the chemical properties of, say, tomatoes, potatoes, everything. She just knows it all. So the question that should be coming to all of us at this point is, why is the second part of the article entitled as What Mary Did Not Know? Because she is omniscient. There is nothing that she doesn't know. So what was it that she did not know? How was it that she was unenlightened? What was it that she was lacking in her enlightenment process? And this is precisely when Frank Jackson enters the domain of strong phenomenal mental states. I will further elaborate. Mary one day realizes that she has mastered it all. So she goes out of her room and plucks some vegetables from her garden. She picks up a red tomato and she holds it on her palm. When she holds it, she looks at it and she says, "Wow, red tomato." This is where the gap is. Mary, the omniscient, known everything that was there to know about the chemical properties, the physical properties of colors, of objects, of everything, she shouldn't have been amazed looking at the redness of the tomato for the first time. But she is. And this is where the question comes. Why was she amazed? Why was she surprised? Because all this while she had only mastered her scientific knowledge through black and white room. She never had any experiential feel of colors. That moment when she holds the red tomato for the first time is the time when she has an experiential feel, a subjective feel, a very private feel to the outside world vis-a-vis tomato, and she's amazed. This is where Frank Jackson says, no matter how much we understand the propositional world, unless there is experiential touch, we can never understand the world of the non-propositional terms. That is, non-propositional world can only be understood when there is experience involved. Without experience, everything is but a black and white write-up. I am going ahead with the second article now of Thomas Nagel to further elucidate about strong phenomenal mental states. Thomas Nagel had written this article, which was entitled as What It Is to Be a Bat. What it is to be a bat. By now, one thing which should have struck the viewers is philosophical titles are best comprehended when they are interrogative. I repeat again, we are here interested more in the problems, in the critical evaluation more than answers. So a philosopher's path is to question. A philosopher's journey is to critically understand. Seldom is the job of a philosopher is to give answers, for that is the domain of scientists. Philosophers are not scientists. So, Thomas Nagel's article about what it is to be a bat, what was it that Thomas Nagel was addressing to? Now, to understand this article, let's go from the basics. Bat. What is a bat? Of course, bat is an animal, we all understand. But the peculiarity of bat is it has certain features which are not there in other animals. For instance, it can hang upside down, it is more active, its optic nerves are more active during night, which is not the case with a lot of other animals. So, Thomas Nagel questions that if I wear the mask of a bat, I hang myself upside down from a tree, will that make me a bat enough? Do I qualify to be a bat enough? Is the costume enough to be a bat? To this, of course, the batness of bat is the coreness, the core property that emanates. It is not the externality. It is not the costume. It is not the mental thought process that the propositional that would make me a bat. To be a bat, I need to undergo the batness. Only then will I be qualified as a bat. Doesn't matter how much of scientific investigation, how much of scientific research, how much of studies I have gathered, if I have not been able to experience it firsthand, I am as good as a third party. So what it is to be a bat? the badness which is missing in the other research studies. Thus, Thomas Nagel asserts that to go to the non-propositional world, we have to go beyond the physical world of right or wrong, truth or false, valid or invalid, and go to the domain of experiential world. Experience which is private, which is subjective, which is ineffable, which is varied. Thus, the takeaway from these two articles of what Mary did not know of Frank Jackson and Thomas Nagel's what it is to be a bat, the takeaways have been on about the subjectivity, the ineffability, the private domain, which are popularly called as the phenomenal mental states. To further elucidate, I would also like to pick up a third part of the study research here from Republics, Plato's Republics, Allegory of the Cave. Allegory of the Cave, or the similarity or the simile with the cave, is something where Plato talks about how, say, all of us were or still are cavemen. We are all perennially imprisoned in a cave. However, the difference here being there is a fire being lit eternally at the threshold of the cave. And all the prisoners are facing towards the wall. Their hands are tied behind their back. Now, because there is a fire that is perennially burning, all the outside images, be it the birds, the trees, whatsoever, they are being reflected. Their shadows are being reflected on the walls. So, for these prisoners, the shadows are the real world. As it goes, one of the prisoners breaks free and he stealthily goes out from the cave. When he goes out from the cave, he is startled, just like, remember, Mary from our Frank Jackson's article, who was startled seeing the red tomatoes for the first time, which she shouldn't have had she mastered everything about redness or colors, but she did. Similarly, our freed prisoner gets startled seeing the brightness of the world. Technically, he shouldn't have had he understood the nuances or the knowledge of what images or objects are. So what was images for them was not taken as plain images, but those were taken as objects or knowledge. Now this freed prisoner comes out of the cave. He realizes that there is something brilliant that is happening. His pupil of his eyes are not able to adjust to the brilliance of the radiance that is coming from everywhere. So he takes a while and he looks at the images, the shadows of, say, the tree. Once his pupil of his eye gets adjusted to the shadow of the tree, he looks up at the object and he realizes, oh my God, all this while what I thought was the real world was only an artificial world, the shadow. After that, he further dares to see the source from which this brilliance is coming, and he then sees the sun for the first time. And he realizes all his life, he and his prisoner friends were in darkness. He realizes he have had his eureka moment. He is elated. He thinks he needs to go back and enlighten his fellow prisoners. He goes back full of enthusiasm. he tells them that, hey, do you know what has happened? What do you think? How do you think his prisoner friends will take it? They will, of course, take it with a pinch of salt, for they realize that whatever they are saying is the real world. Whatever he is saying is just not something they are able to communicate, they are able to understand. So, what the freed prisoner had undergone was the phenomenal mental state, the outside world of the brilliance of the sun, the well lit up trees, birds, objects are ineffable. They are subjective. He is not able to explain, to express it out to his chained prisoners. Thus, with these three derivatives or these three articles, we understand that strong phenomenal mental states are those states which are subjective. We end our lecture 2, Philosophy of Mind session here. Thank you so much.